Hello.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So quickly recollect the concepts that you have learned till now using try block, catch block, multiple catch box, with try block. So these are the topics that we have covered so far in exception handling. Today we are going to see row and rows keyword. But before going into throw and throws keyword, let me tell you about little bit about class hierarchy. So you know that you have the package called java.lang, in which all these predefined classes which are representing various exceptions may occur in our program, right? So this java.lang package, we have a class called, I'll tell you one more thing. There is a super class called object class in Java. So this class is a class for all the classes in Java program. You need not make this class as superclass for any classes in your program, but automatically this class will become superclass for all the classes in your program, including the classes that you create of your own program. So as such, this lang package contains this object class, and for this object class, we have a subclass called throwable class. Okay, throwable class is a subclass for class object. Let me write here the subclass for object class, right? And again, in turn, this throwable has two subclasses called exception and error. Exception is a subclass for throwable, and another class called error is also a subclass for throwable. We are not going to deal with error because error is related to the exceptions that occur which are related to the Java runtime system. Error class deals with the exceptions that are related to Java runtime system itself. So user has nothing to do with this Java runtime system. So we are not going to deal with this error and its subclasses. But coming to this exception class, this has many subclasses. All the subclasses that we have seen in our previous programs, like array index out of bounds exception, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, class not found exception. All these are subclasses for this exception class. Okay, they are all subclass for exception class. So when you have such a hierarchy, of superclass and subclasses, and when you are using multiple catch blocks, say previous program we have two catch blocks, right? One is arithmetic exception, the other one is array index out of bounds. Among these two classes, If one of them is superclass and the other one is subclass, then the catch block of the superclass must appear first, and then a catch block of the subclass must appear next. Then only the exceptions will be handled and the catch block will be executed. Otherwise, the catch blocks will be ignored. So this thing you have to remember while writing exception handling programs. So let me show you that with an example. So this program contains an error. A subclass must come before its superclass in a series of catch statements. If not, unreachable code will be created and a compile terminal will result. So look at this program. The class name is given as super subcatch. The main method, we are creating a try block. And simply we are creating a division by zero exception here. And catch block is written immediately. For that we have given exception class as an object, right? And then after that catch block, again one more catch block is defined, and here I am giving arithmetic exception class. Arithmetic exception class. So arithmetic exception is a subclass of exception, as I told you just before. Arithmetic exception class is a subclass in the hierarchy for exception class. So which is appearing first? Superclass is appearing first. So because superclass is appearing first, so we will get an error with this catch block, right? So let me compile this program and show it to you. Do that. What is that error you are getting? In line number 22, exception, arithmetic exception has already been caught. So because exception is a superclass for arithmetic exception class, and this exception that you are mentioning will also be handled by this exception class, right? So even though this is arithmetic exception class, that arithmetic exception class will be handled by this catch block in general, because it is a superclass. It will handle any kind of exception. It is not limited to any specific type of exception like arithmetic exception. So this arithmetic exception class will handle only arithmetic exceptions. But this exception class, this is going to handle all types of exceptions, right? So it will handle array index out of bounds exception, it will handle null pointer exception, class not found exception, all these exceptions, everything is handled by this superclass exception. So that is why we call this as a generic exception. Generic exception. So generic or general means what? All categories will be included. So specific means in general you'll have some reserved categories and general category. General category which will include all the categories, whereas reserved category will include only specific category. So in the same way, the difference between this exception class and its subclasses like arithmetic exception, array index out of bounds exception, this is difference between them is exception is like a generic one and arithmetic exception is like a specific one. So it will handle only arithmetic exception, this one. Coming to exception, it will handle all types of exceptions because all of them are subclasses for this exception. will handle arithmetic exception, it will handle array index, out of bounds exception. All those subclasses which are part of all those classes which are subclasses for this exception, all those types of exceptions will be handled by this exception class. So because it can handle all types of exception, once an exception occurs, any type of exception occurs in this try block, immediately followed by the try block, whatever catch block is there, if that catch block is handling that exception, then any other catch block which is also handling the same type of exception will not be executed. So that will generate an error. So that is the reason why you're getting. What is the exception description you're getting? Exception, arithmetic exception has already been caught, right? It has already been caught by the previous catch block. So it is waste of writing this catch arithmetic exception. So that is the error it is giving. Fine. So if I remove this now, the program will be compiled successfully. It will display the exception as generic exception catch. Fine. And if I write any system dot out dot print here, it also will be displayed. Right. Now instead of this one, I'll replace this catch block again. I'll remove this. Now also there is no problem. Then we will get this is never reached. Because the catch block, what did we mention? This is never reached. Instead of this is never reached, if you want, write one system dot out dot println. Java dot lang dot arithmetic exception division by zero. Fine. So don't use the super class. If you are using specific exception class for handling that type of exception in your catch block, then before that catch block, don't use any super class of this arithmetic class or any other class. Right? Either use that super class or use this specific class. Don't use both of them. So if you use both of them, then only one of them will be executed, the other one will not be executed. But you are writing multiple catch blocks for different purpose, right? So if you use one of them, then that will be handled, but this will generate an error. Your program will generate a compilation error. So that should not happen. Compilation error should not happen. The compilation must be done successfully. Then during runtime, if any problem occurs, that particular problem or exception must be handled by your program. But instead, what is happening? The program is not yet been compiled. If you are doing so, so don't write subclasses later and superclasses before multiple catch blocks. So that is what the purpose of demonstrating this program. A subclass must come before its superclass in a series of catch statements. Now I'll write this catch block that I removed here earlier. I'll write this catch block exception here. Right? Generic. Now this is working. arithmetic exception has occurred after exception. Because there are two catch blocks, this will be first executed and this will not be executed. If one catch block is executed, the other one will not be executed, right? As per the rule. So this will be executed and this will not be executed. But if you write this catch block later and this catch block after, so this will be executed. This is going to generate a compilation error. None of the catch blocks will be executed. Why we need to write both these catch blocks means, say, instead of arithmetic exception, some other exception has also occurred. For example, you're declaring an array like C like this. And you're writing C of 20. Let us give this A value as 10 so that this is not going to generate arithmetic exception. So, because here in this try block now, arithmetic exception will not be generated. But what type of exception is going to be generated? Array index out of bounds exception is going to be generated. I'm declaring the size of the array as 5. So what index I can use? Up to 0 to 4. From 0 to 4 I can use. But here what I'm trying to do is I'm using C of 5 is equal to 0. Right? Now after compiling this program, I run this. What exception has occurred? Generic exception catch. So because arithmetic exception didn't occur, array index out of bounds exception occurred. So what is the matching arithmetic exception catch block? This will not be executed because this is going to handle only arithmetic exception. The next catch block, this is going to be executed because it is going to handle all types of exceptions. Array index out of bounds exception, arithmetic exception, everything it will handle. So this catch block has been executed. So that is the purpose of writing. If I remove this catch block here and put it here somewhere, also it must work actually. But what is happening? See, exception, arithmetic exception already has been called. So irrespective of whether an exception occurs in this try block or not, if you write a catch block, multiple catch blocks, and if you use a superclass in the first catch block and a subclass in the next catch block, then this error is going to be generated. Right? So don't always remember one point. A subclass must come before its superclass. Right? Because catch arithmetic exception class is a subclass, it must come always before the superclass exception. So remove this catch block from here, write it here. Fine. So then your program will work.
Hello, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Sir, if you have put the both arithmetic exception and the array expression, it will catch both the exceptions, sir.
See, even though we placed different types of multiple catch blocks, arithmetic exception and array and a set of bounds exception, only one of the exception will occur, right? There is no scope for all the exceptions to occur because in one line only one exception will occur.
No, sir. I am asking. We have changed the value to 10, no, sir. We will keep the value as 0 only, and then the arithmetic exception will also be occur, no, sir.
Now here arithmetic exception is not occurring, right? Only array index out of bounds exception is occurring because we have changed the value of VA to 10. So when you divide 42 with 10, no arithmetic exception will occur.
Sir, I am asking to change the value to 0, and again we run the program, then both the exceptions will occur, no, sir.
No, both of them will not occur. See, when an exception is occurred here, what is going to happen? All these statements which are after that exception statement will not be executed, right? If they are not executed, then there is no chance of exception to occur, right? When an exception will occur, this is what I have been telling you from the beginning. So don't get confused. See, if an exception occurs in this line, then all the subsequent lines means what? All the lines which are there after this line will never be executed. This is what I have been telling you from the beginning. In a try block, when an exception occurs in your program, say if it is occurring in fifth line, then sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth lines in that try block will not be executed. They will not be reached. The runtime system will never go to that place. It will never execute these statements. And if it is not executing these statements, how will the exception occur? Only if they are executed, then exception will occur. See, this statement is executed, no exception has occurred. So then it will go to this list statement. If no exception occurred here, then it will go to this statement. If an exception occurred in this statement, then it will not go to this statement. Your program will be suspended till here. Any statements which are there after the catch block will be executed, but the statements which are there in the try block after the line in which exception has occurred, those statements will never be executed. That is what I was telling you. So if I keep here a is equal to 0, then what will happen in this line? Division by 0 will occur. Division by 0 will occur. And when an exception occurs here, these two statements will never be executed. Right? Because an object will be created for arithmetic exception class here in this line, and it will be thrown to this catch block. And the control comes to this catch block. It will not go back to this try block again, like a function call. So if you are making a call to a function, what will happen to the function? From where you are calling, from which line you are calling that function, from that line the control goes to that function and executes all the statements in that function and then return back to that function from where it has been transferred to that function. Then it will continue with the execution of the remaining statements in that calling function. But that is not the case with try block. It will not go back, it will not return the function call, the catch block when it is called, it is not going to return to the try block again. It will continue with other statements which are there after the catch block only. It will not go back to try block and continue executing the remaining statements.
Okay, sir.
అర్థమైందా ఇప్పుడు క్లియర్ గా?
అర్థమైంది సార్. సార్
నేను ఎందుకు జీరో తీసి పెట్టాను? ఎందుకంటే జీరో ఉంటే ఇక్కడ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవుతుంది. ఇక్కడ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయిందంటే ఈ స్టేట్మెంట్స్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వవు ఇంకా. సో ఈ స్టేట్మెంట్స్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వాలంటే ఇక్కడ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వకూడదు. అక్కర్ అవ్వకూడదు అంటే దీన్ని 10 చేయాలి, 0 1. అందుకే 10 చేసేదాన్ని. 10 చేసి అప్పుడు ఇది రాశా. ఎందుకంటే అప్పుడు ఈ స్టేట్మెంట్స్కి వచ్చి ఇక్కడ ఇది ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతాయి, ఇది ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అయితే అప్పుడు ఎర్ర ఇండెక్స్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ బౌండ్స్ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అనేది అక్కర్ అవుతుంది. రైట్? సో మనం రాసే ప్రోగ్రామ్, రియల్ టైం ప్రోగ్రామ్ లో మనం డైరెక్ట్ గా ఇట్లా ఏ వాల్యూ తెలిసి 0 ఇవ్వం, అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ గా ఇస్తాం. మనం ప్రీవియస్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ లో కమాండ్ లైన్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ ఇచ్చాం. కమాండ్ లైన్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ ఎన్ని ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ ఇస్తే ఏ వాల్యూ అంత అవుతుంది కదా. సో we cannot expect whether the a's value is going to be 0 or 1 or 2 or 10 what it is going to be. We cannot expect in our program when you're writing, when you're at the time of writing the program, right? So atla unexpected ga 0 vaste we can't do anything in real time application. But expected, knowingly you cannot give a 0 to a particular variable. A 0 అనే వాల్యూని knowingly ఇవ్వలేము. ఒక రియల్ టైమ్ అప్లికేషన్ చేసాం, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యు ఆర్ క్యాల్కులేటింగ్ యావరేజ్ మార్క్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎ స్టూడెంట్, రైట్? సో యావరేజ్ మార్క్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎ స్టూడెంట్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తాము, అన్ని సబ్జెక్ట్ మార్క్స్ టోటల్ చేసి సమ్ చేసి దాన్ని విల్ డివైడ్ ఇట్ విత్ the total number of subjects and again multiply it with 100, which is the maximum marks for student, right? Then you will get the percentage average marks. But if it happens so that student has been or a student got 0 marks in all the subjects, what is going to happen? The total will be 0, and when you divide that 0 with some value, it will return it 0. So did we expect that? Are we expecting that student is going to get 0 marks in all the subjects? Will never expect, right? But unfortunately it will happen in a real time application, real time scenario, right? We cannot expect that. But because they are going to be 0, will we stop our writing logic for calculating the average marks of a student? Will not stop, right? We'll write the same logic. But when an exception occurs, we need to handle that. So when you say exceptions, there is no scope for more than one exception to occur in your program, and more than one exception will not be handled simultaneously. They'll be handled only at a time, one at a time. So if this exception occurs, then this is going to be handled. Then if this exception is occurring, then it means what? The previous one did not occur. Only if the previous one did not occur, then the next one will occur. The previous one has already occurred, then the next one will never occur. ఒక ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయిందంటే ఇంకో ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వడానికి ఛాన్స్ లేదు. ఎందుకు లేదు అని అంటే ట్రై బ్లాక్ ఈజ్ డిజైన్డ్ ఇన్ దట్ వే. ఇఫ్ ఎన్ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్స్ ఇన్ వన్ లైన్, సే ఫస్ట్ లైన్ లోనే ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయింది, దెన్ సెకండ్ థర్డ్ లైన్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ట్రై బ్లాక్ లో ఆ లైన్స్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వవు. సో టోటలీ హౌ మెనీ లైన్స్ ఆఫ్ కోడ్ ఈస్ దేర్ ఇన్ ట్రై బ్లాక్? 4 lines of code is there. So this is first line, this is second line, this is third line, and this is fourth line. So because exception is occurring here in second line, when a is equal to 0, exception is occurring in second line, then third and fourth lines will never be executed. Here itself, what is going to happen? An exception object is going to be created by this try block automatically, so matching with whatever exception has occurred. Is aim exception arithmetic exception కాబట్టి arithmetic exception class ఒక ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ని క్రియేట్ చేసి దాన్ని త్రో చేస్తే ఎక్కడికి వెళ్తుంది మళ్ళీ కంట్రోల్ క్యాచ్ బ్లాక్, ఏదైతే మ్యాచింగ్ క్యాచ్ బ్లాక్ ఉందో ఆ క్యాచ్ బ్లాక్ వెళ్ళి దాంట్లో ఉన్న కోడ్ ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేసి మళ్ళీ రిటర్న్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ లోకి వెళ్ళదు. ట్రై బ్లాక్ లోకి వెళ్ళకుండా తర్వాత ఏదైతే స్టేట్మెంట్స్ ఉన్నాయో అవి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది మిగతా నార్మల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్, రైట్? ఇట్ విల్ నెవర్ గో బ్యాక్ టు ట్రై బ్లాక్.
సార్ అర్థమైంది సార్. మనము నెస్టెడ్ ట్రై, అదే ట్రై లోపల ఇంకొక ట్రై వాడి చేస్తాం కదా సార్, అప్పుడు కండిషన్ అప్పుడు వాడచ్చు సార్.
అప్పుడు కూడా అంతే అవుతుంది కదా. ఇప్పుడు ట్రై నెస్టెడ్ ట్రై వాడినప్పుడు ట్రై ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బయట ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయింది అనుకో, ఆ ఇన్నర్ ట్రై అనేది విల్ నాట్ గో ఇన్ టు దట్ నెస్టెడ్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ కదా. ఆ ట్రై బ్లాక్ లోకి అసలు మనం వెళ్ళాం కదా.
ఎస్ సార్.
ఇది నెస్టెడ్ ట్రై బ్లాక్, ఇది అవుటర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ ఇక్కడ వరకు, రైట్? దాని లోపల మళ్ళీ ఇది ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ కదా. ఈ ట్రై బ్లాక్ క్యాష్ బ్లాక్ ఎక్కడ ఉన్నాయి? అవుటర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ లో ఉన్నాయి. ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయింది అనుకో ఈ లైన్ లో, అర్థమెటిక్ ఎక్సెప్షన్, తర్వాత ఉన్న ఈ లైన్లన్నీ ఈ ట్రై ఇంక్లూడింగ్ ద ఇన్నర్ ట్రై అండ్ క్యాష్ బ్లాక్ దే నెవర్ బి ఎగ్జిక్యూటెడ్ కదా. అసలు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వవు కదా. ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వనప్పుడు ఇంకా ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయ్యే ఛాన్సే ఉండదు. ఈ ఎక్సెప్షన్ ఇక్కడ అక్కర్ అయిందంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా విల్ కమ్ బ్యాక్ టు దిస్ అవుటర్ క్యాష్ బ్లాక్ అండ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అండ్ క్విట్ ద ప్రోగ్రామ్. ఈ క్యాష్ బ్లాక్ తర్వాత ఇంకేమైనా ఉంటే అవి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతాయి. మళ్ళీ మనం రిటర్న్ ఈ ట్రై బ్లాక్ లోకి వెళ్ళాం. ఈ ట్రై బ్లాక్ లోకి వెళ్ళట్లేదంటే ఇంక ఈ ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ అనేది ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది. ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ ఎప్పుడు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది? ఇక్కడ ఏం ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వకపోతే. ఏ వాల్యూ 0 కాకపోతే అప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వదు. ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వకపోతే అప్పుడు ఇట్ విల్ కంటిన్యూ విత్ దిస్ రిమైనింగ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్, రిమైనింగ్ స్టేట్మెంట్స్ ఇన్ ది ట్రై బ్లాక్. అప్పుడు ఈ ట్రై బ్లాక్ కూడా ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది. ఈ ట్రై బ్లాక్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అయినప్పుడు దీంట్లో మళ్ళీ ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అయితే అప్పుడు ఐదర్ దిస్ విల్ హ్యాండిల్ ఆర్ ఇది మ్యాచింగ్ లేకపోతే దీనికి బయట క్యాచ్ బ్లాక్ దీన్ని మ్యాచ్ చేసుకొని దీన్ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్. సో ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ has two catch blocks అన్నట్టు. One is immediate catch block, this one. The other one is outer try block, catch block ఉంది కదా ఇది. ఈ రెండిట్లు వాడుకుంటుంది ఇన్నర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్. అవుటర్ ట్రై బ్లాక్ మాత్రం ఓన్లీ దిస్ క్యాచ్ బ్లాక్ విల్ బి యూస్డ్. ఓకేనా?
ఓకే సార్, అర్థమైంది.
So till now what has been happening is automatic గా ఎక్సెప్షన్ అక్కర్ అవ్వగానే ట్రై బ్లాక్ అనేది is throwing that exception to the catch block. So what happens in try catch block is whenever an exception occurs in the try block, automatically Java runtime system will throw that exception object to the matching catch block. దాన్ని త్రో చేస్తుంది. సో అలా కాకుండా మనం రాసిన కోడ్లో instead of generating an exception in the code that we have written by performing some expressions like a divided by some b divided by a, ఇట్లా ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ రాయకుండా డైరెక్ట్ గా మనకి ఏ టైప్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ ఎవర్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్సెప్షన్ యూ వాంట్ టు క్రియేట్, దట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్సెప్షన్ కెన్ బి implicitly created in our program by using a keyword called throw keyword. Right? So throw keyword యూజ్ చేసి మనం ఎక్సెప్షన్ ని ఎలా త్రో చేయొచ్చు. So that is what we are going to see next. So look at this program. Shweta, so we have created a class called throw demo. That I am defining a method called demo procedure, right? Demo proc. This is a static method because I'm going to call this method from the main method. Both of them are in the same class. So if one static method wants to call another method, then that another method also must be a static method. So that is the reason why I'm calling this method and qualifying this method as a static method. So in this demo procedure method, I'm defining a try and catch block. Look at how I'm throwing an exception using a keyword called throw keyword. So as I told you, any type of exception that you want to create, that is automatically created by performing that respective operation in your try block. For example, arithmetic exception. How is it generated? When a division by zero operation is performed in your code, then that code is going to generate an arithmetic exception for you. But I don't want to write that any mathematical operation dividing one number with another number so that there will be a possibility for arithmetic exception. Directly I want to create an object for that arithmetic exception class. Just like we create an object for normal classes using class name, object name is equal to new operator and the constructor for the class. So this is how we create an object, right? In the same way, we can create an object by using the new operator and the constructor for that particular exception class and throw that exception to a catch block. So this is permitted and this is possible in Java. So how to do that is, the syntax is you have to use the keyword throw in the try block. Right? You must write this throw keyword inside the try block only. You cannot write this throw outside the try block because this is just like creating an exception. So we have written earlier the code that is that you are suspecting that it is going to generate an exception. You are putting that code inside try block, right? So when you know that this throw keyword is definitely going to throw an exception, you have to put this throw keyword within the try block only. So after throw, use the new operator and give a space and use the constructor of the class for which you want to create an exception. You want to create arithmetic exception, then use the constructor for the arithmetic exception. So each of those exception class will have a constructor and that constructor will receive one string parameter every class. not just arithmetic exception or array index out of bounds exception. Every class that is a subclass for exception class that I mentioned earlier, right? So they'll have one constructor which will receive one string parameter. So for that constructor, what you need to do, whatever description you want to give for this exception, you can mention in the form of a string like this as a parameter to that constructor. Then what is this throw keyword is going to do is it is going to create an object for this null pointer exception, and that will be thrown, and the corresponding catch block immediately followed by a try block. You must handle that type of exception. So whatever type of exception you have created here, so that type of exception must be handled by this catch block. So here I need to give null pointer exception and e. Then using system.out.println, I'm specifying, I'm displaying a message caught inside demo procedure, right? And after catching that exception here, what I'm doing is I'm rethrowing the exception again using the same throw keyword. So once I've created, I use the throw keyword to throw this exception object. By creating the exception object here, I'm throwing that object. But now this E is going to contain whatever exception is object is created here for null pointer exception, that is stored into this variable E. So now E is an object of which class? Null pointer exception class. So that object now again I can throw directly without again creating this object. I can throw using throw keyword like this, right? So I'm rethrowing the exception from this catch block. So when you throw from this catch block, because you are making a call to this demo procedure from this main method, the main method try block, I'm making a call to demo procedure. So this is going to become a nested try exception, right? Nested try block. So within this try block, you are making a call to a method demo procedure. And again, in this demo procedure, you have another try catch block. So these try catch blocks are just like nested into this try block, right? So when an exception is occurred in the inner try block and it is thrown to this corresponding catch block of inner try block, this is going to catch that exception object E and display a message caught inside demo procedure, and then throw back that exception again once again. And when it is thrown, what will happen, because this catch and try block are inside this try block, so that exception is generated from this try block. So it will be rethrown to this catch block. So this catch block also must have null pointer exception. So here what I am displaying is system.out.println the record, because we are throwing the same exception multiple times. Once we are throwing it from here, after creating that exception object here, we are throwing it by using the throw keyword from the inner try block. Then the inner catch block is displaying a message caught inside demo procedure, and catch block is once again throwing this. We are able to throw this from this catch block because this try and catch both are inside this try block. Otherwise, we cannot throw it. Understand? Otherwise, we cannot throw it. So this try block will again now throw this catch, throw that object, so that this catch block or outer catch block is going to handle that exception. So this is how you can create and throw any type of exception you want in your program by using this throw keyword. Let me save this program and run it and show. See, first caught inside demo procedure, then recaught. So when it is recaught, we are displaying the description java.lang.null pointer exception, because what you're doing, you're displaying this object E in the system.out.println. So the description about that exception will be displayed. So what description will be displayed here? Null pointer exception description is displayed. And what is the type of exception? Java.lang.null pointer exception. And the description about the exception is this one, null pointer exception. So this description is nothing but what we have given as parameter, string parameter to the constructor of null pointer exception when we are creating that object. So this can also be done instead of writing it here. You can create an object like this, null pointer exception. You can write it like this. You can create an object first, null pointer exception class, object name is np is equal to new operator and the constructor for null pointer exception and parameter, string parameter you can pass. And then now you can throw here np because np is an object for null pointer exception. This way also you can do. Use it. So this way also you can do. Create an object, null pointer exception object, and then throw that object by using the throw keyword. But you have to do that inside the try block, right? So understood?
సార్ ఈ త్రోది కొంచెం అర్థం కాలేదు సార్. అంటే ఈ త్రో వర్కింగ్ అర్థమైంది కానీ త్రో వల్ల యూజ్ ఏంటి అని.
See, it as of now you'll not understand what is the purpose of this throw keyword, but Java provides a mechanism using which you can create any type of exception of your own. In real-time applications, you may want to create an exception of a particular type, even though it doesn't occur in your program. The coincidentally, if it does not occur, so if it happens coincidentally, then there is no problem. But when you don't know whether it is going to occur or not, then if you want to create your exception type object and throw it in your program, then you can use it. సో దానివల్ల పెద్ద యూజ్ ఏం లేదు. దీని మీద మనం ఎక్కువ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ కూడా రాయం, ఎందుకంటే నార్మలీ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు హ్యాండిల్ అవర్ ఎక్సెప్షన్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు అక్కర్ కోయిన్సిడెంటలీ, అంటే యాదృచ్ఛికంగా అవి జరుగుతాయి, అనంతటా అవి జరిగితే వాటిని హ్యాండిల్ చేయడానికి ప్రోగ్రామ్ రాస్తాం. కానీ మనం కావాలనే ఇట్లా త్రో కీవర్డ్ యూజ్ చేసి ఎక్సెప్షన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి త్రో చేసి ప్రోగ్రామ్ జనరలీ వీ డోంట్ రైట్. బట్ జావా ప్రొవైడ్స్ యూ విత్ దట్ మెకానిజం ఇఫ్ ఎట్ ఆల్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్. ఒక డమ్మీ ఎక్సెప్షన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి ఏదైనా రియల్ టైమ్ సినారియోలో ఇఫ్ యూ రిక్వైర్ టు క్రియేట్ ఎ డమ్మీ ఎక్సెప్షన్ ఈవెన్ దో ఎక్సెప్షన్ డస్ నాట్ అక్కర్ ఇన్ యువర్ ప్రోగ్రామ్, you want that exception to occur, in that scenario you can use this one. అంతే, అంతకంటే దాని యూజ్ ఏం పెద్దగా ఉండదు. ఓకే, హలో.
ఓకే సార్.
So let me write one more simple program. So this is working fine, right? But if I try to throw this E again, what is the error it is generating? Unreachable statement system.out.print applicant block, right? So when you use a throw keyword, then there must be a catch block. If I write a catch block here again, so now also it is going to generate error. But what error is generated now? Exception, arithmetic exception has already been caught, right? So there cannot be multiple catch blocks with same type of exception for a single try block. Earlier in the previous program, it has worked because we have written the try catch block in the try catch block in the demo procedure method, and then we made a call to that demo procedure method from the outer try block from the main method like this. So that's the reason why in the catch block you are able to throw this object here. You didn't get any error here when you executed this program, right? Because this catch block and try block, both of them are within this outer try block. So whenever you have written a throw keyword, you must have a corresponding try block. It must be within a try block. But this throw is not within this try block, right? But it is within this try block. So because it is there within this try block, so this catch block will be executed corresponding to it. But in this program that I have written, I have written this throw statement in this catch block. But is this catch coming under coming inside any other try block? There is no other try block. If you nest this entire try catch in another try block like this, say, for example, write another try block here, then that will work. Right? So two times it will be one. Always when you're writing throw keyword, either this throw keyword must be directly inside the try block or it must be in a catch block or somewhere which is inside another try block. Otherwise, this will not work. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
Then, so next thing is throws keyword. Next thing is throws keyword. So look at this program. Class name is given as throws demo. Throw one method is defined, which is static. Because we are going to call this method from the main method, we have made this throw one method also as static method because a main static method can only call another static method. So the main method gets executed first, and this is going to call throw one. Then this throw one gets executed by displaying inside throw one, and after that I'm calling throw new illegal access exception demo. So by using throw keyword, I'm throwing an exception called illegal access exception. There is another exception class called illegal access exception. So this exception object I'm creating and throwing it using the throw keyword. But did I put this throw keyword inside a try block? It must be put inside a try block, right? If you're not putting this inside a try block, then will this exception be handled? So first of all, this program will not be compiled. So let me save this. What is the error you're getting? Throws demo Java 7, 7th line error, unreported exception, illegal access exception must be caught or declared to be. So we didn't write any try block and catch block. So this method throw one, it is capable of generating an exception here, but is not handling that exception. Is it handling that exception by writing a try block and catch block? It is not handling exception, right? Sometimes we may write some methods in our program which are capable of generating exceptions like this, not just using throw keyword. Normally, by writing a piece of code also, that piece of code may also generate some kind of exception, but that method is not going to handle that exception. Is not going to handle that exception. So if the method is not handling that exception, then what we need to do is we need to ensure that this exception that is occurring in this method is handled by the method which is calling this method. So who is calling this throw one method? Main method is calling. From within the main method, you are making a call to throw one method, right? So it must be the responsibility of this main method to handle this exception that is going to occur in this throw one. So to do that, what we need to do is this throw one method must mention uh, that this is not going to handle exception and it is the responsibility of the calling method to handle that exception by using this keyword called throws keyword. So way to use that throws keyword after the method name is mentioned, after the parenthesis is closed, give a space and use the keyword called throws keyword and specify what type of exception this is going to generate. Say this is going to generate illegal access exception. So mention that illegal access exception class name here after the throws keyword. So now what does this indicate by writing this statement? You are informing any other method in your program which is trying to call this throw one method that I am not going to take the responsibility of handling this any exception that is going to occur in my code. So it is your responsibility because you are making a call to my code. It is your responsibility to handle that exception, right? So once this is specified here, what this main method has to do, it has to put this throw one calling inside a try block. It has to put that throw one, making a call to that throw one method inside a try block and then define a catch block so that the main method in turn will handle this exception instead of throw one handling that exception. Even though throw one is going to generate that exception, it is not going to handle that exception. It is the responsibility of the main method which is making a call to this throw one method to handle that exception. So in that scenario, we are going to use this throws. So I'm not going to make any change to to this program, but I have written already another program to handle this. So I'm going to show that in that program. So this is so the same program we have modified it here. We have created same static void throw one. Just as I mentioned, beside this method definition, I have given then this throws keyword followed by a space and the name of the exception that is going to be generated. So this is going to generate an exception. But who is handling this one? The main method. Instead of directly calling with a single statement throw one to the method throw one, it is putting this calling to this throw one method inside the try block and then defining the catch block also corresponding to this try block. It is handling this illegal access exception, displaying a message called illegal access exception. Right. So the small change that we made to this program is we have added the try catch block in main method. So we just added this try block and catch block, and also we have mentioned for this throw one method a warning like this. This is just like a warning to all the methods which are making a call to throw one method. So whichever method is making a call to this throw one method, it must understand that this throw one is not going to handle this exception that is going to be thrown here in this method, and it is the responsibility of the try. Even though throw is written here, it comes under this try block only, because from within the try block you are making a call to this throw one method. So it means that all this code that is part of this throw one method will also be part of this try block. So if this throw keyword is used inside this throw in this try block, then automatically this try block is going to throw that exception, and this catch block is going to handle that exception. So let me execute this program and show it to you. Right. So inside throw one and caught java.lang.illegal access exception demo. So this demo we have given it as a string parameter. As I told you, when you are creating an exception for any class, that class will have a constructor with one single parameter, that is string parameter, and that string can be given as a description for that exception. Whatever exception is occurred, you can give that string parameter as a description to that exception. Right. So what is the purpose of this throws keyword is, if your method that you're defining in your method, you don't want that method to handle that exception. You don't want that method to handle the exception, and you want to give the responsibility of handling that exception to whichever method is going to make a call to that exception. That method has to handle that exception. Then in that scenario, what you need to do, whichever method is making a call to that throw one method, it has to put that calling statement in a try block and write a corresponding catch block to handle that exception. Not just the main method. If there is another method, some X method is there also, that X method, if it wants to make a call to this throw one method, that also has to write that throw one call using a try catch block like this. Right? If you remove this throws, then you need not write this try catch here, but you must handle that uh, exception either in this throw one class, or you can write this try catch block like this only here. Right? Fine. So this is about throws keyword. So we generally don't use throw keyword much, but at times we are going to use this throws keyword. All the predefined classes, uh, some of the predefined classes are going to use this throws keyword. They're going to mention that they're not going to handle these exceptions. So you need to know the predefined methods in any predefined classes in Java, which are capable of throwing exceptions, but they are not going to handle that exception. Then when you make a call to those methods in your program, you have to put that call to that method inside a try block. So to do that, you need to know what type of exception it is capable of throwing. Sometimes one method will be capable of throwing multiple exception also. That means you are using multiple throw keywords, or you are written a program like we have done the previous programs like nested throw and super sub catch like this. So we are writing the code so that this is going to generate two types of exception, but not both at a time. If one occurs, the other will not occur. So in this case, we are writing multiple catch blocks, right? So in the same way, if your throw one method is capable of throwing more than one type of exception, then you can mention that exceptions by separating them with a comma, all the multiple exceptions you can mention. So if it is also capable of generating null pointer exception, say for example, then we can mention null pointer like this. Okay, null pointer exception you have to mention. Then you have to write another throw keyword which will also generate null pointer exception. Like that. Or else you have, instead of using throw keyword also, you can write program in this way also. Same program here that we have written in super subcatch or in the previous nested try programs that we have seen in the previous class, when multiple catch blocks are there. There also, if you are making a call to a method and that method is capable of throwing two types of exception, there you can mention throws keyword beside that function method definition throws keyword and specify both the exception types, separating them with a comma. Then you can handle them in a method that you are going to make a call. So now your duty is to, for practicing purpose, instead of using use this throws keyword, but instead of using throw keyword, try to use normal arithmetic exception and array index out of bounds exception code like this, and define this try. Don't write this try and catch blocks. Put this code inside a method like throw one or some method. You define any method and write that particular code inside that method, and don't handle that exceptions inside this method. Instead of that, use throws keyword and write mention the arithmetic exception comma array index out of bounds exception classes here. And from main method, you make a call to this throw one method. And in this main method, you put that calling to throw one method like this by catch block. And here you need to define multiple catch blocks. One more catch block, one for arithmetic exception, another for array index out of bounds exception. That way, you try to write the program. Will you do?
Okay, sir, I will do.
So we complete చేస్తే రేపు కంటిన్యూ చేద్దాం.
Okay, sir.